Imagine an AI that doesn't just write a cute description of a house or suggest a trendy neighborhood, but actually has the legal authority to execute a $500,000 mortgage on your behalf.
Yeah, which sounds completely illegal.
Right, exactly. I mean, right now it is illegal, but today we're looking at a roadmap of how the biggest player in real estate is trying to totally change that.
And it is a fascinating roadmap.
It really is. So welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive. Our mission today is to move completely past the surface-level novelty of, basic AI chatbots.
Right, the stuff we see every day.
Yeah, and we want to uncover how artificial intelligence is actually being weaponized to conquer one of the most complex, heavily regulated, and honestly messy experiences in human life. Moving. It is a nightmare for almost everyone.
It really is. And the source material we have for you today is honestly a masterclass in corporate strategy. We are unpacking a highly revealing transcript from a Zillow AI Investor Summit.
And this is dated March 24th, 2026, right?
Yes, exactly. The speaker we're focusing on is a Zillow executive named Cynthia Taylor. She is taking the stage immediately following a colleague named Jeremy, and her primary job is to basically prep an audience of investors for a series of live product demos.
But before she shows off the actual software, she spends her time on stage explaining the massive, invisible barriers that Zillow is currently tearing down behind the scenes.
Yeah, because she has to establish the why and the how before anyone in that room cares about the what.
Absolutely. And for you listening, whether you're a renter trying to secure your first apartment, a buyer looking for a home, or just someone fascinated by high-level business strategy, this deep dive is going to fundamentally change how you view the intersection of technology and real estate.
Because we aren't just talking about selling software subscriptions here.
No, whoever solves this problem gets a percentage of every trillion-dollar real estate transaction in the country. The stakes are just astronomical.
Which is exactly why Cynthia Taylor starts her presentation by drawing a very stark line in the sand. To understand Zillow's grand strategy, she first explains what Zillow believes every other startup and tech company out there is doing fundamentally wrong.
Oh, this is the edge versus core thing, right?
Yes. She separates the current landscape of real estate technology into two distinct zones, building at the edge versus building at the core.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because edge and core can sound like generic tech jargon if we don't really break down the mechanics.
For sure.
What actually constitutes the edge in a real estate transaction?
So the edge is the periphery of the market. It is basically the path of least resistance.
Meaning it's easy to build.
Exactly. Mechanically speaking, it is incredibly easy for a new tech startup today to just plug into a generic large language model via an API and build an app that does surface-level tasks.
Like parlor tricks, kind of?
Yeah, generative parlor tricks.
Yeah.
An app that generates flowery listing copy. Or maybe a chatbot that spits out trivia about the local school district.
It looks really flashy to a consumer, I'm sure.
It does, but it is entirely peripheral to the actual financial exchange of property.
Right. It's an AI that writes, enjoy your morning coffee on this sun-drenched patio.
Yeah, exactly.
It observes the market, but it doesn't actually participate in it. It's like the difference between an AI that can perfectly describe the paint job on a car versus an AI that actually has the authority to hand you the keys and sign the title.
That is a perfect analogy. And Zillow, according to Taylor, is not focused on the paint job. They're not focused on the edge. They are building at the core.
And the core means the messy stuff.
Oh, very messy. It's the highly complex, legally binding financial transaction of actually buying, selling, or renting a home. It is the plumbing of the industry.
Let me push back on that, though. If the core is where the actual money is changing hands the mortgages, the titles, the escrow, why are all these well-funded Silicon Valley AI startups stuck playing at the edge?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. If the prize is that big, why isn't a massive tech conglomerate just building a generic AI to handle the core?
Because moving from the edge to the core means slamming headfirst into a massive invisible wall. And that wall is the law.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. The core is heavily protected by regulation. What's fascinating here is that a generic AI, no matter how sophisticated its neural network is, cannot legally answer the most critical questions a consumer actually has.
Because, and I think this makes sense, if ChatGPT gives you bad advice on a recipe, you eat a bad dinner.
Exactly.
But if an algorithm gives you bad advice on a 30-year mortgage, you are entirely financially ruined.
Right, and the law explicitly recognizes that disparity. The source transcript gives very specific examples of this limitation.
Like what can't the AI say?
So Taylor points out that a generic AI cannot legally tell you exactly how much your specific home is worth.
Wow, really?
Yeah. It cannot advise you on which specific counteroffer you should accept.
Hmm.
And it absolutely cannot tell you exactly how much house you can afford based on a deep dive into your personal finances.
Because doing any of that crosses a massive legal boundary into fiduciary territory.
Yes, precisely.
And for you listening, just a quick Binkist level definition of a fiduciary duty. It legally binds an advisor, or in this case, I guess, a software platform, to put the client's financial interests above their own.
Right.
You cannot just spin up an algorithm in a garage to do that. You legally need a license.
And that legal requirement is Zillow's ultimate competitive moat. They haven't just arrived in this space yesterday with a fancy new algorithm.
Right, they've been around forever.
They have spent 2 decades operating inside this heavily regulated environment.
Yeah.
They hold the actual broker licenses.
So they actually have the legal right to do this.
Exactly. They have the legal and compliance infrastructure already built across different states to actually participate in the transaction rather than just observing it from the outside.
Let's pause there for a second because that introduces a pretty profound paradigm shift.
Oh, for sure.
If Zillow's AI is actually stepping into the role of providing licensed fiduciary guidance, doesn't that fundamentally shift our relationship with technology?
It absolutely does.
We are moving from trusting a search engine to find a picture of a house, to trusting an algorithm to act as our legal and financial advisor. We are essentially asking the machine to hold our financial future in its hands.
It requires an unprecedented level of consumer trust. You are trusting the system's ability to not just process data, but to literally act in your best interest.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. But here's the catch that Taylor brings up next. Having a legal license to help someone isn't enough.
What do you mean?
Well, even if your AI is legally allowed to guide a consumer through a transaction, that AI is completely useless if it suffers from data amnesia.
Data amnesia. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because if you have ever tried to move, you will feel this next point in your bones.
Oh, definitely.
We tend to think of the digital age as seamless, but Cynthia Taylor describes the current consumer real estate journey as a fragmented nightmare.
A total nightmare.
She points out that every single time you take a step forward in the moving process, you feel like you are starting completely over from scratch.
Let's look at how this data amnesia affects different types of consumers, starting with renters.
Okay.
Under the current system, you might have 5 years of flawless payment history as a renter. You have never missed a check, your landlord loves you, everything is great.
Right.
But when you transition to the buyer market and try to secure a mortgage, that rental history doesn't seamlessly follow you to prove your financial readiness.
Because it's locked in a silo somewhere.
Exactly. The property management software your landlord uses doesn't talk to the underwriting software the mortgage broker uses.
So it's like it never happened.
It is entirely disconnected. Or consider the buyer.
Yeah.
A buyer uses a search platform to look at homes online. But that platform totally forgets the physical homes they just toured with a real estate agent that afternoon.
Oh, right, because those systems don't talk either.
No, they don't. And worse, the system ignores the subtle preferences the buyer's in unknowingly signaling.
Unknowingly signaling? Like what?
Taylor uses the example of lingering.
Lingering.
Yeah, so a buyer might stop scrolling on their phone and just stare at a listing photo of a mid-century modern kitchen for like 12 seconds.
Okay, yeah.
But then they scroll past a traditional kitchen in half a second. A fragmented system does not capture or utilize that behavioral intent at all.
That makes so much sense. And sellers are left entirely in the dark, too, about what their very next step should be.
Oh, totally.
It's honestly like going to a massive hospital, and every time a new specialist or a triage nurse walks into your room, you have to re-explain your blood type, your allergies, and why you're even there in the first place.
That is exactly what the real estate market is today.
You tell your agent what you want, then you have to re-explain it to the mortgage lender, then to the inspector, then to the title company.
And the technical root of this consumer nightmare, as Taylor identifies it, is a combination of numerous identities, fragmented data models, and multiple workflows.
Break that down mechanically for us. What does a fragmented data model actually look like beneath the surface?
So it means that the underlying database doesn't actually recognize you as one human being.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In one system, you are, say, user ID 405, and you're just categorized as a generic lead. But then in the mortgage system, you are applicant 992.
Okay, I see.
Because the data is spread across dozens of different proprietary software programs built by completely different vendors, the overarching system never gets the whole picture of the user.
So an AI built on top of that architecture is just legally blind. It only sees fractions of your behavior.
Exactly.
So if the foundation is that profoundly broken, how do you even cure it? You can't just slap a chatbot on top of a broken database and call it a day.
No, you have to literally rip out the foundation and rebuild the data architecture from the ground up. And Zillow's solution to this is what they call the unified intent layer.
The unified intent layer. I mean, that sounds incredibly sleek, but let's pressure test this a bit.
Sure.
Zillow has been the dominant force in online real estate for 20 years. If unifying all this data into one profile is the holy grail, why haven't they done it already? Like,
Right.
is this just glossy investor jargon to pump the stock price, or is there a mechanical reason they are only achieving this now?
It's mechanical.
Hmm.
The reason is that building a unified intent layer requires an enormous amount of proprietary data and deep integration that simply didn't exist a decade ago.
So the tech just wasn't there yet.
Right. It requires one persistent consumer identity across every single phase of the journey. Instead of having a renter profile on one app and a buyer profile on another, the unified intent layer maintains one constantly evolving profile.
That tracks everything.
Yes, it tracks what you can afford, whether you are signing a lease today or prepping for a mortgage next year.
So what does this all mean? Returning to our hospital analogy, the unified intent layer is like giving the consumer a permanent, deeply integrated medical bracelet.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
When the surgeon walks in, they don't have to ask for your charts. Their tablet just instantly updates with exactly what the triage nurse just did, your current heart rate, and your entire medical history.
Exactly, that level of integration. And the goal of this, as Taylor states, is to transition the AI from being a passive search tool into a proactive engine.
Proactive how?
It shifts the AI from understanding what you want to do someday to knowing exactly when you are financially and emotionally ready to take action today. Turning someday into today is the core metric of success for them here.
I mean, it's like walking into a massive department store where the clerk instantly knows your exact budget, your credit score, and exactly what style of clothing you want, just because you stared at a mannequin in the window 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's literally what they're building.
Because the truth is, most consumers don't get stuck on the inspiration phase. Looking at listing photos is fun, you know? It's entertainment.
It's basically a hobby for some people.
Totally. People get stuck on the action phase because the friction of figuring out the next legal or financial step is just paralyzing.
And this brings us to a massive pivot in Tillup's presentation. Because giving the consumer a futuristic, highly personalized AI experience is completely pointless if the real estate professionals operating behind the scenes are still using digital Stone Age tools.
Oh, that's a great point. The consumer experience is only half the equation.
Exactly. The back end of real estate is notorious for being archaic. The transcript indicates the professional side is just as fragmented, if not actually worse, than the consumer side.
Worse? How so?
Well, hundreds of thousands of real estate agents rely on a mess of disparate tools. Taylor explains that an agent's CRM, their customer relationship management software, which is basically the digital address book where they keep client notes, might hold one version of the client's status.
Okay.
But the transaction management system, the highly secure software where the legal escrow documents and title contracts actually live, has a totally different version of the deal.
Wait, really? The source material mentions that sometimes data fields with the exact same label mean entirely different things depending on the system you're in.
Yes.
Like, a field labeled status might mean the client is pre-approved in the CRM, but in the transaction system, status means the final contract is signed.
Which raises an incredibly important technical question. How can an artificial intelligence accurately predict anything or automate any workflow if it is constantly being fed contradictory data from the back end?
It can't. If the data is messy, the AI has to guess. And guessing during a highly regulated $500,000 transaction is a catastrophic liability.
You'd be sued into oblivion. So Zillow had to apply their unification strategy to the professional tools as well. They are building what Taylor describes as one shared version of the deal across the entire Zillow professional ecosystem.
What does that include?
This involves one identity layer, one deal object, one contact model, and one document system.
Okay, let's define deal object really quick, because that is crucial to understanding how the AI actually functions here.
Yeah, let's break that down.
Think of a deal object, like a single, highly secure digital folder sitting in the center of a table. In the old system, The buyer, the seller, the agent, the mortgage broker, and the inspector were all holding their own separate, outdated clipboards.
Right.
If the inspector found a leaky roof, only the inspector's clipboard knew about it until they emailed a PDF to the agent. But in Zillow's new system, everyone is looking at that exact same central folder.
The implications of that central folder are just massive. Under this unified system, a consumer asking a basic question about a property isn't just a lead generation ping anymore. It structurally informs the professional's dashboard about exactly where the client is going next.
So it's all connected.
Yes. When an agent schedules a showing, it isn't just an isolated calendar event. It dynamically updates the entire system about the client's engagement level. A document isn't just a static PDF. It is a live piece of data.
Every single action feeds back into the loop. The left hand finally knows what the right hand is doing in real time.
And that is Cynthia Taylor's core thesis. By combining these three elements, proprietary content, unique user context, and deep integration into a single platform, the AI doesn't have to guess anymore.
It actually knows.
It has the legal authority to act, and it has the unified data to act accurately.
This is how Zillow transitions from being just a search engine for houses into what Taylor calls the ultimate housing super app.
A super app for real estate.
Yeah. And this is the exact moment in the summit where she sets the stage for the live demonstrations, handing the microphone over to product leaders.
Right. She introduces Michael Sherman for rentals, Nicholas Stevens for buyers and sellers, and Cameron Swiggett for the professional tools.
It is honestly a brilliant piece of positioning for Wall Street. She essentially convinced a room full of investors that the grueling, unsexy, unseen work of legal compliance and back-end data infrastructure is actually the company's greatest competitive weapon against those nimble AI startups.
Look at Jumo.
So what does this all mean for you listening? If there is one major takeaway to distill from this deep dive into the 2026 AI Investor Summit, it is this. The true world-changing power of artificial intelligence in real estate is not going to be found in flashy generative tricks at the edge.
No, the revolution is happening in the trenches at the core.
Exactly. It is about securing the legal right to provide fiduciary guidance. It is about replacing fragmented clipboards with a single deal object. And it is about creating an unbroken chain of intent from the moment you rent your first tiny apartment to the day you buy your dream home.
They are basically taking the chaotic, heavily regulated friction of moving and attempting to make it as seamless as ordering a pair of shoes online.
Which is amazing, but solving that friction leaves us in a really interesting philosophical place. Because Zillow's ultimate endgame here is that perfectly unified intent layer.
Right.
We are talking about an overarching system that tracks everything from your monthly rent payments to the exact number of milliseconds you lingered on a photo of a home office with built-in bookshelves.
It is absorbing and quantifying behavioral data that you probably don't even realize you are projecting.
The system is learning your subconscious preferences. It registers that you favor large windows and open floor plans before you have ever consciously typed those words into a search bar.
Which is a little spooky, to be honest.
It is. Which brings us to a final thought for you to mull over as we wrap up today. If an overarching algorithm eventually reaches a point where it knows your realistic financial budget, your underlying timeline, and your own subconscious aesthetic preferences better than you know them yourself, at what point do we entirely outsource the human intuition of finding a home to the machine?
Will we even need to search?
Right. If the algorithm removes all the messy, emotional friction of searching, will the AI know exactly where we belong before we do? Something to think about the next time you catch yourself lingering on a listing photo. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.